Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Hey folks, I want to thank you for joining us for the Statler Financial Radio Show. Hey, things a little bit different this morning. We don't have Danielle in first thing. She'll be joining us after we do this first segment. I wanted to spend some time with you today talking about the big, beautiful bill that was signed into law back on July 4th. And so it has some all-encompassing tax breaks. It really does help middle America when it comes to finances and taxes. And there's even some stuff for retirees that I want to talk about this morning. It's a huge bill. I'm sure we won't go through it all today, but I wanted to at least whet your appetite to maybe find out a little bit more about how you can maybe benefit from the big, beautiful bill. So let's just kind of dive right in and talk about what it is, what it may or how it may benefit you as we kind of dissect it a little bit to see what's on it. It was a broad bill in scope. Yes, it passed by the hair on your chinny chin chin, but it passed with bipartisan support, meaning we had everybody come together and at least 51% of the people voted for this bill in Congress. And to do that, they had to make some concessions for folks to get the congressional votes they needed. So let's start out with some of the basics. It's going to help everybody out there. Let's talk about standard deductions. So, back when President Trump first signed his new bill into law, he increased the standard deduction and got rid of the personal exemptions. Well, the standard deduction for singles was going to be $15,000 for this year and $30,000 for married filing jointly. Oh, that's going to go up just a tad. Not much, but every little bit helps. So now for 2025, the standard deduction is going to be $15,750 for single individuals and $31,500 for married individuals. So there we get a little bit of a bump. Depending on your tax bracket, that's still going to save you some money at the end of the year when you file your tax return. The other thing I want to talk about is, one of the things they talked about was no tax on Social Security. Well, they couldn't really get that passed with that exact wording. But what they did do is that they increased the standard deduction for people that are 65 and older. So they call it a senior standard deduction. And so, seniors got a little extra standard deduction anyway prior to the BBB, but it was only like $2,000 if you're single and $1,600 if you are filing jointly as a qualifying spouse. Well, that's going to get a pretty big bump. And the reason for the bump is to help offset Social Security. So what we have is an extra $6,000 for seniors who are over 65 years old. Now, it's not just across the board. Not everybody gets it, but most everybody will get it. So it has some phase out. So what does that mean? So that means that everybody, single individuals get $6,000. Qualifying spouses will get $6,000. So a married filing jointly, if one spouse is 65, then you only get an extra $6,000. If both spouses are over 65, then we get $12,000 additional deduction. But again, like I said, that phases out. So what does that mean? So it means that if our income gets too high, then we start to lose some of that benefit. And the phase out for singles is going to be between $75,000 and $175,000 of income, which is a wide range, but that means they'll lose a little bit for each $1,000 of income they make. And for a married filing jointly, that number doesn't exactly double like it has in the past. On the low end, yes. $150,000 is where the phase out starts, but it stops at $250,000. So we get that will be the phase out there. So for most Americans who are over 65, they're going to get the benefit of this extra senior standard deduction, helping offset their income from Social Security. So a couple other things I found interesting is the SALT deduction. Remember, that's a state and local tax deduction. Floridians weren't really bothered by it a whole lot because you had a $10,000 amount if you could itemize anyway. But that they bumped to $40,000. Again, it has some phase outs in it that the people have to be aware of before they can use it. But most people don't itemize anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal that we've seen in the past. Northerners, Northeasterners, where their property taxes are outrageous and they pay a state income tax, for them, this is a big deal. So what are some of the new things in this bill? Well, one of the new things is a tax deduction for your tip income. So folks can deduct up to $25,000 a year starting in 2025. And this provision is retroactive to January 1st. And so $25,000, it does have a phase out. So if you are single and make over $150,000, well, you're going to start to lose some of that deduction. For married filing jointly, that happens at $300,000. Probably not going to be an issue when it comes to tips. The other one, though, it could be an issue, and that's a new deduction for overtime pay. So now, and this is retroactive back to January 1st as well, if you are paid overtime, you can deduct up to $12,500 per taxpayer from your income for overtime. So 100% of your overtime up to that $12,500. Again, it has a phase out. So if we make a single over $150,000, it will start to phase out. And if you're married, that number is $300,000. So another big thing that will help individual taxpayers when we look at especially the tipped. I mean, you think about $25,000, even if you're at a 12% tax bracket, that's $3,000 a year you're going to save in income taxes. So that's a big number. So we looked at then to help families, we had a little bit of a bump for the child tax credit. So up until this bill passed, it was going to be $2,000 in 2025. That number is going to be a little bit higher. So the maximum credit will be $2,200 for 2025 and beyond. And so up to $1,700 of that will be refundable. So that's good. It also phases out for higher income levels. $200,000 for single, $400,000 for married filing jointly. If you hit over that amount, then you're going to start to lose that. Let me back up just a minute. I forgot to mention this. On the tax deduction for tips and for overtime pay, that's not going to go on forever. It will go away. It phases out in 2028. So up until 2028, you'll get that deduction. After 2028, you will not get this deduction. It's not in the bill to last forever. So just so you understand that. The other two other things I want to talk on real quick while we have some time in this segment. And the first thing is the auto loan deduction. So now you can deduct up to $10,000 of interest expense on new car loans. Now here, there's a few caveats here, right? Number one, you had to purchase it this year after January 1st, 2025. It has to be a brand new vehicle, and it has to have been assembled in the United States. So if it meets all those qualifications, then you can deduct up to $10,000 of interest expense. You don't have to itemize to get that deduction. Now, it does start to phase out at $200,000 for a married filing jointly return. And then the last thing I want to talk about is charitable deductions for non-itemizers. So think about that. You know, you've been told, or you looked at when you filed your tax return these last several years, don't worry about deductions for charitable giving because you're taking a standard deduction, so it doesn't count. That changes. This one starts in 2026. And so what you have to do is you have to keep receipts for those deductions, and you will get $1,000 in addition to your standard deduction for single, $2,000 for married filing jointly. So that's another bonus for those people that are charitably inclined. And let's face it, most people are between, baseball teams and church and other things will give away $1,000 or $2,000 a year. Now we just got to keep track of it again so we can get our tax deduction for that. So as you can see, we've not even touched really the surface of what this big, beautiful bill has to offer when it comes to business deductions, some of the retirement planning options that are out there. And so, taxes are one of the big things we look at when we talk about our core retirement design. We want to help folks design the retirement they always dreamed of. And there's 3 key points we look at. One of those being taxes. How can we save the most in taxes? And the big, beautiful bill plays a big role in that now. And so, look, I'd love to spend 30 minutes with you, answer your questions, and to see if you're on the right path to the retirement you dreamed of. You can give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 for our core retirement analysis. It's a 30-minute phone call. Give us a call, get on our calendar, and let's see if you're on the right track to the retirement you always dreamed of. So again, folks, I want to thank you for joining us today as we head into our next segment. There's Danielle walking into the studio now. Stay tuned for the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Phillip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Phillip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Phillip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back into the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, alongside Phillip Statler, Statler Financial Services. We're here to talk to you now about taxes in retirement. Many people assume that their taxes will go down once they stop working. While this might be true for some of you, for many, taxes could actually become one of your biggest expenses in retirement. Phillip, why do so many people underestimate their tax liability in retirement?
Well, I think a lot of times people think that because they retired, they're going to spend less money and they're going to need less money. And what we have found is that that's not necessarily true. Actually, when people stop working, they want to do other things, right? They have hobbies that want to they want to enjoy, they want to travel. And so those things actually keep expenses relatively high, pretty consistent with what they used to have when they were working. The other thing is that one of the places that most people take income from in retirement, because it's where most of the money's been saved, is in their 401k or their IRAs. And so what happens is that money, nobody's paid tax on that money. So it's 100% taxable. Another thing that people think, Danielle, is that, hey, my Social Security is a tax-free benefit. Well, for some people, that may be true. But for most of us out there, that is not going to be a fact. Most people are going to pay some tax on their Social Security. As a matter of fact, it can get as high as 85% of your Social Security can become taxable. And people don't figure that into the process when they start taking money out of their retirement accounts. And then there's obviously fewer deductions in retirement than what there were when you were working.
You know, understanding these tax realities is really crucial for retirees, Phillip. So how can unexpected taxes in retirement impact even someone's overall financial stability and planning?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to look at is when we're talking about taxes in retirement is that you have to realize that money that's sitting in your 401k or your IRA, it's not all yours. Part of it's Uncle Sam's. The problem is we don't know how much is going to be his until we file our tax return. And so it can be a problem when we take out too much. It can really push us into a higher tax bracket. And so, Uncle Sam ends up being our partner in those accounts. And the other thing we look at is that your money, because you're having to pay taxes, might not last as long because you have to pull out more to pay the taxes. I mean, I have clients that, hey, look, I need 10 grand. Well, that's what they need. So we have to bump that number up to compensate for the tax liability that's going to come along with it. And typically that's going to be 20%. And so that gets to be a huge deal. The more and more money you take out, the higher your taxes are going to be. And this is one I think a lot of people don't really think about, Danielle, is that when your spouse passes away, the surviving spouse's income often will fall because they lose some Social Security benefits. But get this, their tax rate will actually increase due to now not filing jointly, but filing single. And so that puts them in a higher tax bracket. And then for the other folks out there, because the Secure Act was passed, it eliminated our ability to stretch out your IRA. Used to be you could stretch it out over your lifetime. Now that's not the case. If you're not a spouse, then you have to take the money out of that inherited IRA by the end of the 10th year. That can be a huge tax bill that you're laying on your beneficiaries without even knowing about it. Folks, this is all why I created the Core Retirement Design, to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. We look at three key aspects when we head into retirement. One is risk. How much risk do you have in your portfolio versus how much risk should you have in that portfolio? What I find is about 60% of the folks out there have too much risk in their portfolio. About 20% don't have enough risk in their portfolio. And there's about 20% or so that have it just right. Don't assume that you're in that 20% that have it right. Get a plan. Make sure that you are in the right spot. The second thing we look at in our Core Retirement Design is taxes. We want to make sure folks are paying the least amount of taxes possible in retirement. And the third aspect of our Core Retirement Design is designing an income plan for you to make sure that your money lasts as long as you need it to. Folks, to get started with your Core Retirement Design, give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
If you have any questions about your own retirement plan or even taxes specifically, do not hesitate to give Phillip and his team a call. That number again is 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. You know, Phillip, it's easy to see why so many retirees could be caught off guard, especially by taxes. But is there really anything that people can do to reduce their tax burden in retirement?
Well, there are, but here's the deal. Tax preparation is like a Band-Aid. It focuses on saving tax dollars for this year. And that's great. But here's what I got to say. Is that tax planning, it's the long game. Mm-hmm. It's not a short game. Consider your entire retirement journey and making decisions now, not for today, but to have the most tax efficient retirement throughout all of those years. So the goal of tax planning is to help you maximize your retirement income and the legacy you leave behind to your beneficiaries, all in the process of eliminating and minimizing as much as we can when it comes to your tax burden.
You know, Phillip, most people believe that taxes are incredibly complex and, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the rules and regulations. So could you do something like a retirement tax assessment for us so people can understand?
Absolutely. It's one of the things we do at Statler Financial. It's part of our actual core retirement design. I made sure that it became the one of the legs of that whole stool is tax planning. Because we want to make sure that folks pay the least amount of taxes possible in retirement. And it takes planning. It takes the ability to look forward and to know that, hey, I think taxes are not going to be lower in the future. They're going to be higher in the future. And we need to make some changes in order to make that happen. I mean, when I look at the whole situation of taxes, I can't imagine them being any lower than what we see today, Danielle.
That's right. And I know navigating taxes in retirement can really be tricky because there are many potential pitfalls. So let's go into what are some common mistakes that you would say many people make when they're trying to manage their taxes in retirement, especially on their own?
Well, I think a lot of times it comes back to remembering that your IRA or your 401k is not all yours. You got to share it with Uncle Sam. And one of the big mistakes I see all the time is that folks are going to retire and then they're going to pay off all their debts because they're going to take a big chunk out of their 401k or their IRA to pay off all that stuff, which sounds good in theory. But what happens is it bumps people up, sometimes not just one tax bracket, but two tax brackets. So now, instead of being in that 12% tax bracket, they're in like a 24% tax bracket. They've doubled the amount of taxes they're going to pay in retirement. And so I think that's one of the big things is that making sure that when you decide to pull money out, that you're really and truly looking at all the repercussions, because that has to be one of the biggest things I see. And just a little caveat here is that, and we don't think about this at all either, when it comes to the Affordable Health Care Act, if you're not on Medicare and you're covered by the Affordable Care Act and you take out too much money, guess what? You have to pay back that credit that you got for your health insurance. Folks, that can be devastating. I've seen people have to pay back tens of thousands of dollars because they took too much out of their retirement account. And you have to just take $1 too much and you have to pay it all back. This is why planning is so important when it comes to taxes in retirement. It's a big deal. And I think we forget about that. I think the other thing that we look at and we don't think about a lot when it comes to taxes in retirement is the taxes we're going to pay on our Social Security. We forget that we might have to pay some tax on that money that we got. We assume that it's going to be tax-free money. And that's just a bad assumption. we don't know how much tax we will have to pay on our Social Security. Maybe it's zero, but very likely it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 85% of your Social Security is going to end up being taxable. Folks, all of this to say, the reason that I created the Core Retirement Design was to help people with taxes, with income, and with risk. Give us a call at 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis. It's simple. It's a 30-minute phone call where you and I will discuss where you're at currently, what you're doing for retirement, and how close you are to retirement. And we'll determine if you're on the right path. If you are, great. If you're not, maybe I can give you some key elements that you can tweak in your own plan to make sure that you get the retirement you always dreamed of. Again, to schedule your core retirement analysis, it's 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
If you have any questions about your own retirement plan or even taxes in retirement, this is your opportunity right now to schedule a call with Phillip and his team by calling that number 863-877-1188. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. You know, with growing concerns that tax rates will rise in the future due to the rapidly increasing national debt and other pressures, now might be the time to be proactive with tax planning. We're going to continue this conversation with Phillip right here. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Surprise parties can be fun.
Surprise!
Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Phillip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your R&D, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
You know, interest payments on the ballooning national debt now exceed every other individual budget item except Social Security. Given the expected continued growth of government debt, many believe that it's reasonable to conclude that tax rates will rise in the future. Welcome, everyone, back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We are continuing the conversation here with Phillip Statler of Statler Financial Services about tax planning and what to keep in mind. So, Phillip, what do you think about this? Given the expected continued growth of government debt, what do you think? What should we keep in mind with possible tax raises in the future?
Well, I think we have to realize that government spending is definitely out of control. And so that means taxes are probably going to go up. Now, it's really not a guess. It's just math. They like to spend money. It doesn't matter who's up there. The other thing I want you to remember is Social Security and Medicare are projected to become insolvent in less than 10 years. Now, folks, if folks can't get their Social Security and Medicare, what do you think is going to happen in this country? There's going to be a huge revolt. So believe me, they are going to get that solved before they become insolvent, which means you and I are going to pay more in taxes in order for those benefits to go out. Think about this as well. By 2030, 20%, that's 1 in 5 Americans, will be over the age of 65, putting an increased strain on our federal and our state budgets. And then remember, the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act legislation referred to usually as Trump tax cuts, they expire in 2025. That means at the end of next year, they're gone. 2026, we go back to the old rules, the old tax rates. Folks, I don't think people have really made the calculation of what that's going to mean to them when it comes to their tax bill. But all of these things are reasons why taxes are going to go up. And well, we already know in 2026, they're going to go up unless something gets done. And I just don't see that happening, Danielle.
You know, Phillip, it certainly seems that there are compelling reasons to expect that tax rates could increase in the future. But Phillip, how might these tax increases, how could these impact individuals who have stopped working or they're now retired as well?
Well, again, retirees, where are they going to get their money from? You know, they get their Social Security and maybe they get a pension, but typically they're going to take money out of their retirement accounts to cover, their expenses. Well, every time we take money out of a retirement account, Uncle Sam is there. He's a partner. He wants his share every time you take money out. And the issue is we don't know how much he's going to want until we file our tax return. So because we have that increasing tax burden, we have a potential of depleting our savings faster than what we would have without those higher taxes. The other thing we look at is that, everybody's savings is in tax deferred accounts, IRAs, 401ks, and the larger withdrawals to pay taxes leads to even higher taxable income. Most people will call and say, hey, I need $5,000. I need $10,000. That's not the gross amount. That's what they need in their account. Well, now you got to tack on the tax, whether that's 15%, 20%, 25%, whatever tax rate they're in. So that increases the amount of money we have to take out of those accounts. The other thing we look at is higher tax rates mean that Social Security benefits being taxed at a higher rate. That's a big deal. And then higher taxes could also affect our ability to leave a legacy to our heirs, as more and more money will be needed to cover just the sheer minimum tax liabilities that we're going to have.
You know, Phillip, in the previous segment, we briefly discussed the importance of integrating tax planning within a person's overall retirement plan. So now can you discuss some specific tax management strategies that we could incorporate into such a plan and keep with us the rest of our lives?
Absolutely. The IRS tax code, it's a rule book that, if correctly followed, can potentially lead to several opportunities for some long-term management of taxes throughout your retirement. Remember, there's no silver bullet when it comes to taxes. And anybody that tells you there are, be very cautious. So here's some things that you can do. Diversifying taxes by spreading retirement savings across accounts with different tax treatments. So that means that you're going to have your IRAs and your 401ks, but you're going to have your non-qualified accounts. Non-qualified accounts get taxed as you take money out. And so you want to make sure that you've got those diversified across all aspects. Secondly, we want to use tax loss harvesting to reduce the amount of capital gains that you may be subject to. Increasing tax deductions using a charitable trust. Again, it takes some planning, but it can be done. Another area that's very popular, we do it all the time here at Statler Financial, is Roth conversions, making sure that we are maximizing the use of our tax brackets. Man, if you're in a 10 or 12% tax bracket and you're not maxing it out by doing Roth conversions, then you're leaving money on the table. If you're not paying any taxes at all, you're in a 0% tax bracket, and you have a retirement account, you are missing a huge opportunity to convert some of those monies out of your IRA into Roth IRAs where they will grow tax-free. And then the last thing you need to look at, that a lot of people don't use these either, is qualified distributions and using your IRA for charitable donations. And then make sure you're balancing out where you're taking your distributions from, whether that's a Roth or traditional, and limiting how much you have to pay in taxes through that diversification as well. Folks, listen, all of this wrapped up is our core retirement design, where we'll help you design that retirement you always dreamed of. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
Do you have any final tax planning tips for anyone that we could take away from today?
Again, I think the number one thing is that to remember that the 2017 Tax Cut and Job Acts expires at the end of next year. And in 2026, we go back to the old rules. And so we do have this year and next year where we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. And I would encourage you to take advantage of this little window we have. Yeah, in 2026, could they change the rules and could they change the law to continue? They could. Will they? Think of how much debt we've taken on in the last 4 years. Can they really afford to reduce taxes? I know you hear a lot of rhetoric out there right now during this election year of how they're going to lower your taxes. Folks, the debt is higher and higher, the highest we've ever seen. The interest payment alone is going to kill us. Folks, we need to be proactive. You need to put yourself in the best position you can be when it comes to taxes in retirement. And again, that's what we do. I mean, that's the basis of our whole planning process, is that three-pronged approach: taxes, risk, income. Those are the three things that you really need to focus on when it comes to your retirement and income planning. That's why I developed the core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. Our core retirement design is, we're going to look at the risk you have in your current portfolio, and we're going to measure that against your risk number to make sure that the two things line up. Here's what I have found in the past is that about 60% or so have too much risk in their portfolio for retirement. There's about 20% to 25% of the folks out there, they don't have enough risk in their portfolio. And there's 10 or 15% of the folks out there, they've got enough. They've got it right. Folks, please don't assume that you're going to be the one in that 10 or 15%. Because if you're wrong, it could be devastating. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll help you design the retirement you always dreamed of.
You want to take advantage of this offer from Phillip to make sure that you won't run out of money. You may even boost your returns over time. So simply get started today by calling Phillip and his team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. We like to remind you that you don't have to plan for retirement alone. Phillip and his team are right here with you. Well, we've covered a lot here on the show today, but we're still going to put Phillip to the test. Coming up in our retirement trivia, you're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Phillip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Phillip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit statlerfinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back into the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, alongside Phillip Statler. He is the founder and president of Statler Financial Services. Hey, so we're going to switch things up here a bit. Coming back into the show, now we're going to take a little time to put Phillip to the test with the round of retirement trivia. And our topic today, Phillip, is, you're going to love it, taxes. Okay.
Gotta love taxes, man. That's keeps the world spinning, right?
Exactly. And I think you're going to do well because you always bring really, really good insights and different perspectives here. So starting with question number 1, it reads, about how many words in the U.S. tax code are there? 1 million, A, or B, 1,000, C, 4 million, or D, 6,000?
Well, the words, that's a little tricky because I know that there's over 70,000 pages. I mean, I know it's a long document. Now, how do you equate that to words? You know, if you think 70,000 pages, I originally thought, wait, 1 million, but then I thought, well, how many words are on a page? And that may not be enough. 1,000 and 6,000, well, those are way too little based on 70,000 pages. So I think this time I'm going to pick 4 million, C.
That is correct. And explain why. Why would you explain for 4 million to be the reason?
Well, again, when I look at my choices and 70,000, right? 70,000 pages. I can't even imagine how many stacks, how high that would be if you did that. And so it really, that's just a lot of pages. And I feel sorry for those people that have to parch through it all the time to try to figure things out. But, I picked 4 million because that's, when I look at 70,000 pages, that's a lot of words.
That adds up to be right. So Phillip got it. C, 4 million. That is how many words are in the U.S. tax code. Okay. So as we're moving on to question number 2, let's see if you can get this one. What year did the IRS begin requiring taxpayers to list their dependents' social security numbers? Okay. We have a couple of dates here. A, 1987, B, 1960, C, 2001, or D, 1945?
Man, can you give those to me one more time, Jenna? Let me write them down because that's going to be a little bit difficult to try to figure that out.
So we're going to figure out what year the IRS began requiring taxpayers to list their dependent social security numbers. Now, the times are different now, so think about it like this. So we have A, 1987,
okay, B,
1960, C, 2001, or D, 1945?
Man, so I'm going to have to do some reasonable, reasoning and deductible reasoning, I guess you call it. Isn't that what you call it? So, I know it wasn't 2001 because I've done taxes long enough to know that it's always been that way. Mm-hmm. Well, not always, obviously, but it's been that way for a long time. Now, obviously, 1960, 1945, I wasn't around. So that boils it down really to only have one choice left, and that's 1987. And I only did that by, process of elimination.
Okay. Yeah. So 1987 is right. It's when the IRS started requiring social security numbers of dependents. A whopping 7 million children vanished from tax returns. Really good. Okay. I would say definitely process of elimination helped you, but we're going to give that to you. Okay. Moving on to question number 3. We have a true or false. So this is pretty 50-50. You can get it either way. So more than 20% of returns filed on paper have at least one error. True or false?
I'm going to say that's true because I bet that it's more than that, really.
You got it right. Yes, 20% of hard copy tax returns contain errors, while less than 1% of electronic returns do. They say that these errors can raise the odds of an audit or delay refunds. Now, I'm sure you familiarize yourself with this as well, possibly getting some errors yourself or just kind of helping people with their taxes as well.
Well, you think about it, electronic, right? It runs through this error checking, right? So it checks the return. And so it won't allow you to file that return electronically if there's a known error. Now, there can still be obviously errors in the numbers, but otherwise you can't really make an error as far as forms or, from that standpoint, it's much more difficult to do. So I get that. And I would bet that people that file on paper, though it's getting to be less and less, it's probably more than 20% actually have errors on my bet.
That's absolutely right. Let's see what we have for question 4. So we have another true or false. Dang, we're making it easy for you today. It's your lucky day.
I just flip coins. I just start flipping coins.
Okay, so we have the IRS has more people working for it than the Federal Bureau of Investigation. True or false? Do we have more people working for it or not?
I'm going to say that one's probably going to be true as well, only because I think that I think there's more IRS, big IRS offices around the country than there are FBI offices around the country. Big ones. I'm talking about like big buildings. And so that's my reasoning is I think that makes sense that there's more that do that. And I know Congress keeps adding to it. So it's an increasing workforce.
I agree, Phillip. I mean, even just like hearing it, I would say definitely, because listing here, they have that over 90,000 employees are the IRS has working there and expect to grow its workforce to 105 employees by next year, 2025, while right now they say only 37,000 employees work for the FBI. So, yeah, I mean, just looking at all of the taxes that we have to deal with, I would definitely expect them to have more employees than the FBI. So they're expected to hit 105,000 employees. I mean,
that's a lot. And let me give you just a little insight, because a buddy of mine just did some continuing education with dealing with IRS and audit and that kind of stuff. And you know that those 15,000 new employees they expect to hire this next year, plus some of the ones, I think the 25,000 they hired, was it last year or the year before, all of those are not going to customer service, which is they need drastically. They're going to audit. So all those new employees are going to be auditing you. They're trying to drive up the audit rate on individual tax returns. So be prepared for more notices and more audits.
This is why we need help. Okay. Okay, let's get to our next question. Question 5 says, we have multiple choice here. Let's see. So what famous arena is exempt from property taxes? We have A, Matthews Arena in Boston. We have B, Madison Square Garden in New York. We have C, Sphere in Nevada. And we have D, Wrigley Field, Chicago.
So Sphere, tell me again, where's the Sphere at?
That is in Nevada.
Okay, Nevada. Okay,
Nevada.
Because that could make a big difference. What state it's in? Because I have no idea. So it's just going to be like throw a dart against the wall.
Right.
I think it was probably the Sphere. I think it was probably Nevada. They gamble a lot there. And so, they don't necessarily, that's how they get their revenue. So they probably don't need the property taxes from that. So I'm going to say it's the Sphere in Nevada.
I'm sorry. It is B, Madison Square Garden in New York.
New York? They allow somebody not to pay property taxes in New York?
Yep. So the arena has been exempt from New York property taxes since, get this, Phillip, 1982.
No way.
Since 1982, the arena has been exempt. So the agreement was only supposed to be for 10 years, but it was worded incorrectly. So the exemption will be in effect as long as the Knicks and the Rangers keep playing their home games there. So that's quite interesting, actually.
So the New York attorneys didn't catch that, huh?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So unfortunately, yeah, shout out to them. That's exciting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine what the property taxes would be in Madison Square Gardens in downtown New York? My gosh.
That's crazy expensive. Okay. So we have time for one more. Here's a bonus question. I don't know if you're going to be familiar with this, but we'll see. Which famous criminal went to jail for tax evasion? This is A, John Dillinger. We have B, Ronald Cray, C, Pablo Escobar, or D, Al Capone.
I know this one. I know this. This is one you always talk about, right? When you talk about money laundering and criminals and, you know, the whole mobster deal. And that would be Al Capone. That's what he's known for is, you know, all the crap he did. He got put in jail because he evaded taxes. Just think, if he had paid his taxes, he might still be alive and doing his thing.
You're right. Okay. You got that one. You did. He was evicted of tax evasion in 1931 and had a prison sentence of 11 years. So you got it. Really good job. You only got one wrong. So,
hey, you know, I try.
I guess you know a little.
Some of them I had to guess, but yeah.
Yeah, you did do a process of elimination, which has worked in your favor. But Phillip, as we are coming to a close here on the show, kind of remind our listeners if they have questions about their own retirement plan, if they want to sit down with you as we're closing out the year, talk about your core retirement design and how it benefits them.
Absolutely, Danielle. You know, several years ago, I worked hard to put together a process we call our core retirement design, where we help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. We really look at three key aspects of retirement. It starts with risk, because risk in retirement can be deadly. A lot of people head into retirement and they don't make any adjustments to their portfolio, or they work with somebody who's really good at accumulation, but not so much when it comes to the distribution phase. And so that's what we focus on. Second is taxes. Folks, I want to make sure that you are paying the least amount of taxes, not year over year, but over your lifetime of retirement, making sure that you pay the least amount as possible, trying to get to the point where we have you at a 0% tax bracket. Does it always work? No, but we work hard to get you to the lowest tax bracket we can. And then lastly is making sure that you have an income plan in place. 70% of the folks out there heading into retirement do not have an income plan in place. Folks, you need to have one. It needs to be written. You need to know where your money is going to come from and when it's coming. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll make sure that you're on the track to the retirement you always dreamed of.
Hey, we want to remind you of that number again. It's 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. There's no cost. There's no obligation to sit down with Phillip and the team. 863-877-1188. That's all we have for you for today's Statler Financial Radio Show. We hope you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.